Today with us we have Shoba Mohan, the founder of Wear India. Now, if you're in the hospitality space, you'll be well aware of her achievements. But let me give you a little intro into what Wear India is all about. It's a community of conscious luxury boutique hotels, palace stays, wildlife lodges, homestays, and all retreats that have a sort of story that goes with them, something special, something curated. So it's a very select group of properties that she brings together. So thanks so much, Shoba, for joining us from Rajasthan in the middle of your road trip. Really nice to see you wearing on the block prints.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that, we've been going back and forth on this, but I just thought let's just do it, while on the road trip.
Yeah, wonderful. So I wanted to ask you that as someone who's had so much experience in the hospitality industry, in the world of, tailoring, have you actually ever faced any sort of, gender discrimination, stereotyping, sexist comments? Anything that, which you remember, which had maybe an impact on you or changed the way you operated after that?
Actually, not really. The travel industry has been extremely kind and has been very, very forthcoming, very forward. In fact, because it's such a creative field, they actually probably automatically presume that this is, it's perfect to have a woman come and tell them that, this hotel is good, this is why you should use it. The soft touches. I think that is why there was never a question about the quality of my work. As far as, the sexist comments and all, not really. I mean, I've never, no one has ever really, said anything untoward to me. Actually, never ever actually. And I think one of the things that I've always maintained is that, we were also, I had largely a women team. We were also very careful in the things that we did. We never really, I never stayed out and partied among people I didn't know. I kind of, not that would have done anything. Maybe that's not, it's not a idea to, it's not something to say that, maybe if I did, they would have done something or something like that. But in general, it's been a very low-key work engagement kind of a thing. So my social life was always outside of the, outside of the industry, not so much within the industry. Also, the industry itself has a lot of women, right? So never really had... I think they're all used to having a lot of women working in the industry. So there was never any discrimination of any kind. The only areas where I would feel that, they kind of stereotype you is when you're a part of boards and these associations, where they automatically will presume that, when there are big decisions to be taken, they kind of really would not listen to you on stuff like that, or they would put you, okay, you go by the decorations or do up the booth kind of stuff. So that's where and it used to irritate me. And if you kind of ask something very openly, first of all, most of the associations are very, very male oriented in the travel business. So that's one point I had, and there are lots of women working. And this is something that we constantly ask. Please check any of the IATOs and things like that. It's a complete male bastion. Nobody even bothers to think that there has to be a female representation. And if they kind of put you in there, they kind of put you in the soft edge, where, why don't you create the gift packing together or something like that in a scenario. So that is the only... that's the only stereotyping I would actually I would point out to, and this is across the board. This is across all kinds of things. I don't want to name big associations. I don't want to name any association, but typically they would do this.
What about mansplaining? That's pretty across the board in most companies, industries. Have you faced a lot of that?
What does that?
Mansplaining is essentially like, things you already know, but, a man would try and explain it down to you, thinking that because you're a woman, you wouldn't understand finance or any particular subject.
Yeah, okay. So from a man's perspective, that it should be taken. Yeah, that exists.
No, not from a man's perspective, but just anything which he assumes that since you're a woman, you will not be knowing or in the knowledge of, say, politics or the domains that are said to be more male oriented. Yeah.
No, not really. I don't think I don't think anybody would do the mansplaining with me, but I have not encountered that. But like I said, in a large gathering, if there is in an association, I was a part of a couple of associations before, and then I stepped away because when they start to think that this part of it, this is big business, and you don't, and that's not more. I think that's more to do with the fact that the nature of my business is very creative and low key, and the marketing side of it, they probably don't associate an operational perspective from me or a financial perspective from me.
Right, exactly. So then that is stereotyping in a way.
Yes, in a way, in a way it is. Yeah. But that's not because of being a man or a woman. It's simply because of the nature of my job.
Okay. So, and then how do you cope with something like that when somebody does that or assumes certain things? So how do you deal
I typically am not very quick to anger. So I usually look at it like this. I said, if you don't value my point of view, what do I have to sit in that forum and do? I simply move away. I have moved out of a couple of forums simply because, your viewpoint was not appreciated or something for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a women's thing or something. I just kind of moved away, and neither have they noticed my absence. Neither have I noticed their non-inclusion of me. So I think it's a good one. See, the one thing I should tell you, Priya, is that in an organization, in a industry like travel, where there is a lot of women working, because there's there is, because it's so outside, it's a field work, right? There's a lot of meeting clientele, there's a lot of going to the airports and things like that. There is a very thin line being protective and wanting to say this is a man's job. There is a certain protective element to it. They don't want you to go to the airport at night. Now, for me, I can say, oh, why are they not allowing me to go to the airport at night? I would like to go. I can take it like that, or I can say, oh, this is discrimination. I prefer to think of it as something that somebody is actually concerned that they don't want you to go to the airport at night, because a lot of things can happen. A car might break down, you might not get the transport might break down. They might have trouble finding somebody. There could be an issue, something like that in the middle of the night. If you remember, in the early days, you had to go to the airport. The flights were coming in late in the night, right? So that was a perspective. It never occurred to me that I should be looking at it as, that being deliberately pushed to the side. I never thought of it like that. Then when I was doing conferences, I remember I used to accompany dealers' conferences, and I remember senior members of large companies used to tell me, and if I was pregnant, and it was a full-on men on the group. These are all dealers from all over the world, and there was all kinds of things going on, loud and things like that. They would tell me, ma'am, after I did my operational work and sort it out, they would say, ma'am, kindly go back to your room. This is all right. Now, I would take it as somebody who was very concerned for me. And I remember one particular group, there was a series of group, I was pregnant and I would go. And the very premise of the group given to our company at that point in time, I was not doing there, I was running a travel company, was on the fact that I would accompany each one of those groups. Small, dealer groups from, various parts of the country, not used to seeing women in the forefront and things like that. So the sales manager, the head of sales of that particular organization, used to tell me after everything was sorted and set, he would say, ma'am, please go back to your room. We are here. We'll look after it. So it's also in the perspective. Now, I think younger generation would say, why can't I do? So what if I'm pregnant? But for me, I thought that was a gesture to say, you've done what you have to do. The rest we will take care. Please go, that kind of a thing. Now probably people start to demand and say, oh, why aren't you there? Your team wasn't there. It didn't exist then. I know when people say there was nobody from the hotel, there was nobody from the company standing there. Where the party is going on till 11, 12, 1 o'clock. You're not required to be there because everything has got a time limit. So at that point in time, I thought it was just people being caring and,
So thank you for sharing your own personal experience in this. So I wanted to know then, how do you, if you see someone is coming into the industry now, like, would you give them similar advice to, operate the same way, differently?
Yeah, I would, if people come into the industry and they do, first of all, this thing is a double-edged sword for me because people want to be treated equally, but they want privileges also. I can't understand this. I don't know this, right? So, so if you want to be treated equally, don't expect those privileges, right? I mean, there's no need, right? I mean, I never expected any privilege from anyone. Whether rain, storm, pregnancy, period, anything, I was there. If you were not, I didn't have any boss who told me, no, you should not. Now that is insensitivity, not to be confused with, it could be something else. A migraine is as bad as a period pain, right? So that is insensitivity. But I just want to tell youngsters, when you come into the industry, there is a learning phase. In that learning phase, you have to learn to deal with people, and everything is not necessarily about a gender bias. Not everything is gender bias, really, especially in this day and age. People have girl children, so some of it really comes from genuinely wanting to be thoughtful for you, right? That's number one. Number two is that I also feel women, it's not a one-way street, right? If a company is working with you, small or big company working with you through your pregnancies, through your maternity leaves and things like that, you also have to give back in the same coin. I can't understand these things where the company has to give maternity leave and has to keep paying for somebody, however early or late they have joined. However, when the company wants you for something, you say, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I need to go. Because the travel industry doesn't work like that. No one, the arrivals and departures are not really based on your sense of time or things like that. The, clients arrive late, trains get delayed, everything is done. So you can't just pipe in and say, oh, but, this is not... it's beyond my working hours. In the industry, it doesn't work like that. So you have to come in with this thing that this is not your regular 9-to-5 job, and don't confuse it with bias or anything or incentive. Don't confuse it with that, because the industry is like this. Because if you don't do it, and most of travel is individual ownership and entrepreneurship. If you don't do it, whom I have employed to do a certain job, I have to do it. Right? So who looks after my this thing? Or then if you won't do it because you have to go or do this, that and whatever, then if I say, okay, then I prefer a man to do this job because he doesn't have this thing, then don't complain to me. So this confusion, that where do you draw a line where your strengths and your responsibility and your accountability is concerned is totally in your hands, and it's got nothing to do with gender bias.
That's really valuable advice. Thank you so much. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of youngsters coming in.
I'm sure. They might not take it very kindly, but this is really because we've done. I'm 52, and the industry's got several women I can quote, unquote. Dynamic women who stand here today, and they've blazed their own path. They've done their own stuff. They've been at the airports. They've been writing. They've done stuff that you can't even imagine, right? Whatever was happening, that Mansplained happened, this, that happened, but they are success stories because we walked through that. We blazed a trail. We refused to take no for an answer, and we did it because we knew that, we had to do whatever. We had children at home. Don't forget, we had husbands who didn't believe that you had to go out and work. they believe that you have to come back home and do the rest of the work as well. So for a man, it was one work, right? He just had to go fetch money. For a woman, if she decided to work, it also meant it is only an extra work. I'm doing 2 jobs. I came back home. I taught my children homework, and they did their thing, looked into their studies, took them to dance school and everything. At the same time, I did my office work as well, right? So the younger generation doesn't have, because the men are more sensitive than this. And there's always this, the families that you kind of got, I mean, the guilt tripping that your people did about, working women, especially in the travel industry, wo hoti kahan hai, wo rehti kahan hai, is not, I mean, that's not funny. That is not going to happen to you youngsters, huh? Because you're going to give it back. We didn't have that opportunity.